hello and welcome to another bonus episode celebrating our 100th episode. And of course, this is only possible due to the generous support of all of our Patreon supporters. If you'd like to help support the show, you can do so by going to www.patreon.com/onthebench and pledge any amount from $1 per month upwards. Your support helps us with the production costs and hosting costs and are greatly appreciated. And of course, we need to say a huge thank you to SMS Paints and Fine Scale Modeler for being our regular contributors as well. In this episode, we're going to be going head to head with the boys from the Scale Model podcast. Hope you enjoy it. And with us as part of our 100th birthday celebration, hailing all the way from Canada, I have got Stuart from Scale Model Podcast. G'day, Stuart.
Good days. G'day. And
of course, we have Anthony from Anthony. Is it Heavy Model Industries or
Goodman
Model Industries?
Heavy Model Industries.
You'll get it right eventually, Dave.
Yeah, it's actually just Goodman Models.
Yeah,
nice and simple, like me.
Yeah, okay.
You're really wrong.
But it sounds so much cooler when you say Goodman Heavy Industries, which is I think
it does,
something
doesn't
that
it?
Stuart says all the time.
Yeah, that's my fault. That's my fault because we hang out before COVID, we would record in Anthony's workroom,
yes,
which is in his basement. So I used to have to come up. I always wanted to come up with something unique when I was introducing him. So there was one day he had a bunch of his super sanding blocks kind of in process of packing and all that, and it looked like an assembly line. So I went with it.
It gets that way down here sometimes.
I'll bet
it does.
So, guys, thanks for joining us. I'm so glad you could take the time to sort of be with us. And I thought we'd kick it off by just having a chat about how you guys just sort of got into the podcasting in regards to modelling. Where did that come from?
Well, I was the start, and actually it's kind of funny because you and I, Dave, actually started around the same time. I think we both had the same idea within a week or two of each other.
Yeah.
So I kind of set up a website, I kind of got an episode out, and then real life happened. So I ended up taking a break for about 6 months, then got back into it. I've previously done a bunch of different podcasts for different things, and I really enjoy the media. And I say I have a face for radio, so you know, that always
you certainly
works
do.
out well.
You certainly do.
I think we all have that. We
Thank
all
you.
do, mate.
Same with all of you.
Yes.
Same with all of you.
Too
yes.
true.
And then, no, I always knew from the start I wanted to have guests, and I always knew I kind of wanted to have a fairly regular guest host. And then, you know, I've known Anthony for years through our local club and stuff like that. And I thought I needed a sucker. I mean, I needed a volunteer. And you know what? He's picked it up really, really well. He's turned out to be a natural, as you can see. Never mind his supernatural ability for getting guests.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think I was a guest first. Remember?
You were.
Stu?
You were, and you did very well. And that's what I thought when I found my co-host.
That's right. Yeah. Definitely I think I was at a time when I wasn't attending any club meetings at all. So I was kind of starved for. Yeah. I think I was busy and I wasn't going out I didn't have time for extra stuff at the moment. And I was really starved for model chit chat, which you may guess I enjoy doing with people. So it kind of filled in a little bit of I guess a void for me where I could you know, get some chat in, some model goodness, you know, kind of interaction. And it kind of took off from there, didn't it? Because I don't think I'd ever listened to a podcast before. Before you had you had invited me on, maybe once or something.
See, for me, it was the fact that I had started listening to podcasts, and it was intensely frustrating that there wasn't one in regards to modelling. So I thought, well, I'll do my own. And and as Stuart said, we pretty much had the same idea within about a week of each other.
Wow.
And I kicked mine off, and Stuart just kicked his off. And I think we punched out about 20 before life finally allowed you to get back into it, Stuart.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. No, you guys were doing really well, and I was really, really pleased. And there was definitely a niche. I remember listening to some model railroad podcasts, and they were really good. And I thought, yeah, there's definitely something here, and it's something we can definitely take advantage of. And I think what's worked well, and we've had letters recently from listeners to all the podcasts that each of us have on our own kind of created a unique niche in the
Yes.
space, and that's worked very, very well, and people really enjoy that.
Absolutely. And for me, the biggest, well, I was really chuffed to be able to have the opportunity to come over and actually meet you guys in Canada.
That was awesome. Beautiful, fantastic time. And we had our good friends at the Canadian Warplane Museum and Alan and Ian from IPMS Hamilton. They graciously picked you up and gave you a tour. I still have the photo of you in the I believe was in the Catalina.
That's right. Yeah.
When we first saw you there, and you just had this wonderful, wonderful big ass smile on your face. It was good.
You look like a
showed up.
kid in a candy store, I think, in the back of the PBY.
What do you mean I looked?
Yep.
I was a kid in the candy store.
He was. We knew he'd like it. I did warn him. Between that and some of our amazing stores in Toronto, so it was really nice that you were able to make it down. And again, we cemented our friendship, and we made some new friends there. And like I said, IPMS Hamilton, and they're helping sponsor the Mooseroo Cup this year.
And that was another wonderful thing that we sort of did just through general ribbing of each other and sledging. We got the Mooseroo Cup up off the ground. And
Yep.
I well remember taking the Gundam that Ian had built all the way across to Canada.
Yes.
And amazingly, it travelled from Australia to Europe to Canada and got there in one piece, which I was amazed.
That was a big surprise for me too.
Yeah, it's always dicey, dicey shipping models, isn't it? I have it right on my shelf in a box, ready to go to. Would have been a show that would have taken place last March, so it's just gonna go to the next time when
it'll be
when
going
things
to the
are.
next Heritage
cool.
Con. Yeah,
Yeah, the next Heritage Con for sure.
yeah. And I
I'll
know you
enter
guys
on your
have.
behalf.
And I know you guys have the car down there, and thanks to all these things, we have a whole new organization, Julian's Jewels,
Yes.
and all his fans.
Oh,
No, not this stuff again.
He's got a huge
That
fan
was
base
great.
there, Julian.
He does. They all love him.
Yep.
It's more of a cult, I think.
Even better.
You say cult, we say fan club.
Yep.
I think I'd like a cult because they're gonna die for you someday out there.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
They're going to be ones that'll be copping the bullet.
They're
for
gonna
you,
put their
Julian.
lives in harm's way for you, Julian.
Yeah.
You can't buy that.
Take a bullet for you, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
You're a lucky
There we
man,
go.
Julian.
That might be something he needs based on if he ever goes to IPMS Nationals with some of the commentary. The odd thing when he stirs up controversy, he might need that.
Yes.
Well, we've actually got plans in place to head to IPMS Nationals at Las Vegas next year, providing that we're able to get a injection, the vaccine, before we go,
And we're allowed in the country.
and we're allowed to depart the country.
Yeah, and you're allowed to go in.
Yeah, so that's what we're planning on doing next year. You guys got any sort of plans to sort of head down that south?
Not myself right now. Just
Yeah.
financially, it's just not there. And really, we're starting to get vaccines this week in
Yeah.
our neck of the woods, but
hmm
they're basically saying it's going to be probably September till most people will be able to get it.
Wow, that late.
Um, Yeah, well, just they're starting with healthcare workers and stuff like that.
Same
but,
here, yep.
Yeah, so I don't know. We're still kind of hoping. Like, I know I was talking to Alan a while back from IPMS Hamilton, and they'd love to get a Heritage Con into the spring, but people just aren't sure yet. So I'm really hoping Vegas happens, but I just don't know. I think it's going to be another 6-7 months or so. Just my own guess. I hope I'm wrong,
Yeah.
but that's my guess.
Well, I think the Nats are always on my bucket list. Like that's a show I'd like to get to. But I mean, like Stuart's saying, it's a matter of just waiting till things calm down.
Yeah.
And like I've gone down to like Wonderfest, for example, is probably a similar size con. And going down to that, I've made it a few times, and it's always a great trip, great friends. It's a lot of fun. So, but Nats is certainly on the list. But I don't know about this year. It seems right now like things are worse. I know the vaccine's coming, and we're that's really great news. But I figure, like, logistically speaking, it's not something that will happen kind of in a week or two.
No,
I think it's gonna take a year to get through everybody.
There's a lot of people to go through.
Yeah, and there's all these issues with transporting it around, and and you guys are a large like geographic space too, right? Like just getting to everybody and getting people kind of on board with the program and all. That takes time.
Definitely.
And we're behind. We're behind a little bit. We're probably about a month and a half behind. Like you guys had the lockdown there in Melbourne and Victoria and that, and we were, we're in kind of the code red, and I was kind of surprised they didn't declare the actual lockdown for Monday.
Yeah,
they didn't. I'm not impressed with that. But yeah, we really need to go back. They call it a code gray here, where pretty well everything's still not as restrictive as you guys were, but it really needs to happen.
One of those things that
it did help us a lot. What are we up to? About 49 days free.
Yeah.
Of community transmission.
Yeah.
That's
recently
incredible.
we had 7 cases, but they were just people that had just recently flown in and they were already in quarantine.
Well, having said that, there's as we record this on December the 20th or 19th, sorry, there's been outbreak up in New South Wales, so we're just hoping it doesn't come down south to where we are.
Yeah, because we don't want to have to go through that
keep your
again.
fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Well, at least you guys have been
fun.
able to get. At least you guys have been able to get together and record again. Where Anthony and I, we've been, we only live about 1.5 kilometers apart, but we haven't really, we haven't been able to get together and record.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in forever, Stu. It's been.
I know.
Mind you, that's where Zoom's come in really handy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, exactly. Well, and I think that's one thing that's been great for the space and the hobby.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's interesting because I've found that I've been able to travel to international club meetings from the luxury of my build room. I mean, as you know, Stuart, I pop along to your club meeting when work permits. It's just the time zones that are the hassle for me. But being able to go to, club meetings around the world, because they're all being held with Zoom or similar sort of platforms now, we can sort of virtually travel and sort of drop in and say g'day, which has been a big plus. It's one of the big pluses that have come out of it. The other thing we were talking about most recently on our 100th episode that we just recently recorded also is that it's been a boon for the hobby as well, because we're seeing a lot of people coming back to it. Hobby stores have been reporting, record sales, or if not sales that are on par with them not being in lockdown, because, people are sort of stuck at home, so they're buying kits, and it's apart from the implied health issues, it's been a good thing for modelers.
It's been great for if you're a scale modeler, it's been a great thing.
Oh, it's been fabulous, and and we see that too here, where our local stores and that reported an increase, and then of course we both reported on Hornby Airfix. They made a profit, this year. So they've found it too, and I think also the idea, where we have Zoom and that coming in, things like virtual meetings, and virtual conventions.
Yeah.
You had the Wanta Fest here on the East Coast, which worked out well. And one of the things, and I've said it before, apparently one of the bigger areas is they've got quite a few modelers who, even with no COVID, they're physically or mentally or whatever, they're unable to make to attend a big show like that.
Yep.
And they were able to participate. So, my hope is there'll still be some shows that'll give that opportunity, because I know at the Wanta Fest they had quite a few entries when we interviewed George. He was saying that, so I think that's going to be a good possibility. There was an IPMS regional convention in the U.S. RightCon recently, and similar thing. And I think that's going to be fabulous for the hobby as well.
Well, that's one of the things. Sorry, go ahead, Anthony.
Oh, I actually participated in a judging. The judging role for the RightCon in the sci-fi category, and that was an enjoyable experience. But I mean, I was going to say it really doesn't compare to the like the live show,
and
probably the live club meet. But I mean, everyone knows that probably, right? But you know, it was a pleasant little like diversion, and it, you know, keeps things moving for people and gives them like targets to shoot for to get their entries in, and kind of probably gets people talking a little bit. So it wasn't, you know, not a bad thing to have these online conventions. Certainly, you know, just taking the role of that sort of community hub while we're kind of dealing with this sort of worldwide, you know, challenging issue. But yeah, can't wait for the actual things to start back up sort of in person.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I think one of the things I know myself, and one of my other hats is I'm president of the local IBMS chapter, and there's a few of us up here, some of the presidents, and I think even for when we get back meeting physically, we're going to basically do what you're doing here, David. Set up an iPhone, fire up Zoom, and people who are unable to attend or are club members, will send them a link, and they can feel like, you know, they're there. And I think that you're going to see more of that.
And that's the other thing about podcasting, which is really sort of it came out of left field and surprised me. The amount of emails that I've received, and I suspect you've probably had a few as well, where people have written in and say they're so appreciative because they don't have the ability or have clubs in their local area, or they've been suffering from mental health issues, and these podcasts for them have been, I wouldn't go so far as to say a lifesaver, but they've certainly been able to put a smile on their face. So it's an unexpected and very pleasing sort of aspect of what we do.
Exactly. We've had similar email here. I'm thinking of one in particular. He's an ex-military guy, and he was recently retired from law enforcement, and just with all the stuff going on in the States, it was very stressful. And it was nice for him. Yeah, he was able to listen to both your show and ours and the other shows. And exactly. And we've seen several like that. And I think, that's also a good thing for the hobby.
Absolutely. And I've got to take my hat off to you, Anthony, for the type of people you managed to get on for your interviews. You have some sort of magical knack of getting people on. Although it's interesting, we've had a bit of rivalry between the two shows as to who's going to be the first one to get Airfix on. And neither one of us
have had any luck.
Neither one of us has had any luck.
I've been very close. I've actually had somebody on the hook. Is that can I say that, on the hook? They were on the hook.
Yeah.
I don't know how happened. They just disappeared. They stopped answering. They were all set for it, and I was getting ready to make fun of you guys, already preparing my jokes. I was starting to tease Stuart mercilessly, and then the guy just didn't get back. But I won't take no for an answer. I'm still gonna hound them into doing it, I think.
I don't think we've got a snowball's chance in hell of getting anyone from Airfix, and I blame myself because I'm always canning them.
Well, that's even if they actually listen to the show.
Exactly. If they listen to the show, Ian, you're screwed.
Exactly.
I don't think I've ever built an Airfix kit.
Oh, you're lucky.
Well, I haven't. No, you know what? As you know what, Ian, in his defense, he has said he has seen some that, you know, they're a mixed bag. They really are. And I fully admit that's what I cut my teeth on when I was a wee lad.
Right.
We all did.
And you're still a fanboy. Yeah, you still kind of. It's like rooting for the underdog.
It's
right?
nostalgic. It's nostalgic.
Back in the days of the 70s and the 80s, there was a hierarchy of models, and you'd start off with Frog would be right down the bottom, Italeri and Esky and Hella, and then you'd have your Airfix.
Revell.
Then, Revell was kind of.
Revell Airfix was.
And then Matchbox would be the next high one, and Tamiya would be like the golden halo that you'd always.
But you forgot one step in between.
What's that?
Monogram.
Oh yeah, I never built any monogram.
We all cut our teeth on monogram kits.
No, I did.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah. All of the kits I built as a kid were 48 scale monogram kits.
Wow.
That I used to find at the local Kmart.
Kmart store, seriously.
Yeah.
Back when
there was a toy section.
They used to sell model kits there at one stage.
That explains a few things.
Yeah.
I remember building some Revell kits, but I don't know if I ever built any monogram.
No, I built
stuff
monogram. Monogram did a lot of aircraft. I remember their 48 scale Phantom, and At the time it was like the only game in town, and people could do quite a bit with that, but you were doing a lot of scratch building.
Yeah, you had your B-17, you had your Liberator, you had your P-39.
Well, they did the B-36. You remember they did the 148 B-36.
No, that was 72nd.
You guys were talking about.
Yeah,
was it 72nd?
Yeah,
okay.
172nd. Yeah.
That's
Which is
right.
You try finding that kit now on eBay for under $200.
Oh, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
6 turning and 4 burning.
Yep.
Burning. That's right.
Great aircraft. Yes, and at the time that was the largest plastic injection model kit of the world.
Yep. I remember when I used to get my Superman comic books, they always had a monogram ad on the back of the comic book, and that's where they had it.
Yep.
And I always remember seeing that, and I'm thinking, just like now, I went, where the hell do I put it when I build it?
that wasn't that ad usually right next to the ad where you could buy the ammo box full of toy soldiers?
Yeah, exactly. 200 toy soldiers for 99 cents.
That's right, yes. And then you bought it, and they were just paper cutouts. That was the biggest ripoff ever.
I know. I think we're dating ourselves. Julian's probably going, what?
Exactly.
I could do that if you want.
Yeah, that's all right. Old-timey, How many times did that come up in the 100th episode recording?
It's come up a couple times, and it's funny, our 100th was just all over the place. The big thing for us to celebrate is obviously talking to you guys and all the other podcasts, which are going to be dropping as specials for the next all throughout the month of January. It's how do you celebrate 100 episodes? It's a real sort of tough gig. I mean, especially after we had that fantastic episode with Al Murray, which was
that was great.
That was
fantastic.
Great guy to talk to.
Fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic guy to talk to.
Funnily enough, I'd had James Holland on the hook for a short period of time, and then he just disappeared, and I never sort of heard anything back, much like Airfix. Must be something to do with the English.
Yeah.
Anyway.
People, you know what? They get busy, and it's the last thing on their mind, I think.
Yeah.
Like everyone wants to do it if they can find the time, but then certainly ahead of the Christmas season, I even got some indications from a couple of people that, you know what, we're just going to be so busy. And then, but that just means you have to just sort of extend that invitation to later on.
Yeah.
I do a lot of that for sure. Follow-ups and stuff. But, congratulations on the 100th. That it is remarkable.
It's a milestone.
To keep that consistent, ethic to, create the show and find things of that to talk about that people enjoy hearing about. And
that's the difficult thing, trying to find subjects.
Great. Yeah.
Well, you know
for
what?
Sure.
You basically go with what your audience likes, that you guys have done. You guys will, sometimes say, hey, someone's come up with a good idea in a letter, and you'll talk about that, or just, sometimes even revisit some of the old stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's what we're looking at too sometimes with, tips and techniques. And, I've been in this game now, back into building now for at least 20 years. And every year there's still something new that makes me go, wow. Like, for example, this year are those wonderful 3D printed decals by Quinta Studios.
Yeah.
Those are just so cool. We have a couple of guys in our club who've purchased some, so we're looking forward to hearing from them.
Have you seen it? Have you seen them in real life? I've only seen them on computer magazines and stuff. I haven't really. I've only
seen them online, and I saw like a demo video. So the guys have ordered them. I don't know if they're in yet. I might be popping over to see one of them tomorrow. So if I do, I'll see if I can get some shots of them and all that. But just when we saw the demo video of that, they were showing it. I showed these guys at one of our build nights, and they were sold. Much like our build nights sometimes are just like when you guys record with Ian. The next thing you know, people are off to the online shops and ordering things. Jeff, our other co-host, Jeff, in particular, he's really bad at that. We've, we have a running joke right now. We have a guy in the club who, as a long-term service award, his employer gave him so much he could spend. So he bought the Wingnut Wings Felix stove, which he's always loved. He's gonna start to work on. So Jeff was interested, and so now the running joke is every time we get in to a Zoom call with Jeff. So Jeff, have you bought it yet? We're trying to wind him up. So
with all the online purchases we do so casually, it's kind of weird to know that there are modelers out there who refuse to do, to buy anything online. That they'll only buy from the bricks and mortars hobby shop. It's like
I can see that.
Mind, like how much stuff they're missing out on.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it depends on how good their local hobby shop is, maybe.
Yeah, I guess.
Or how comfortable they are with online shopping too.
Yeah, I mean that has its pitfalls for sure.
Well, I think definitely, obviously, we've all seen COVID's basically changed a lot of that, and both the store and the punters out there, they have to move with the times.
Yeah.
And that's where, I'm still slowly but surely working through the survey answers I did. And, there's definitely more people are buying online now than they were last year. And a lot of the reasons is exactly that. And, I think in some ways it's good and it's not so good, because if you're a brick and mortar store, you've really got to get your tail in gear.
Yeah.
You've got to now. There's no excuse, because if you don't, you run a good risk of losing. Like, for example, I just recently one of the things I can't stand lately is I hate waiting in line. I'm impatient. Ask my wife. The grocery stores have been getting really busy again and stuff like that. Well, instead of doing that, I just basically now, I tried it last week. I ordered online. I go to the store at a certain time. I pop open the back of the car, and they've already shopped for me and put it in the car. So it saves me an hour, click and collect. And I got to tell you, that's something I'm going to do more and more. And, if the stores aren't careful, like the local store that refuses to, do an order or refuses to do curbside pickup and that, they're going to be in trouble. Like, I know one of our local stores, he did that at the start of COVID, and he was blown away by how much orders he was getting.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to have to, like, it's, and I've said this before, I wouldn't want to be a retailer in the space now, but retailers can survive. Look at Andy at Andy Hobby Headquarters, for example, little tiny brick and mortar store. But thanks to the power of internet, social media, he gets it. And now he's got a full-time, a couple of guys full-time who work for him that do nothing but online.
And we've seen with some of our local hobby shops, the way they've managed to survive is they've adapted, and that's by having a lot of radio control stuff in there now. And even Lego, there's one particular hobby shop I know that's got a whole wall just full of Lego kits now. And that's how they've sort of managed to adapt, overcome, and move forward.
Yeah.
That's a huge hobby in and of itself. The Lego collecting and
it's the same. It's the same thing every year. Like Airfix is going to announce their new line in early 2021. Well, you know as well as I do. So whatever they announce, you're going to have the naysayers out. But guess what? Companies produce Spitfires and Tigers and 109s because they sell, and that allows to pay for the more obscure stuff. Well, we've go ahead.
Let me get on my hobby horse about Airfix, and I'll naysay something they haven't built.
Here we go.
Here we go.
The Queen Elizabeth 1/350 scale aircraft carrier.
Look, as much as you want that thing,
I know.
I don't think Airfix would do a job of it that you would accept.
But how embarrassing would it be for Airfix to have somebody like Trumpet come along and do it? Where's your national pride?
Would they
Come on.
Do they have any anymore?
Yeah.
They even in England? Is it maybe their headquarters is somewhere else?
Look at Brexit. No, it's owned in England.
No, I'm talking about specifically Airfix. I mean, like they've sort of displayed that they don't really care about knowing the customers and the community, right?
Do you think that's true?
No, I think they're in transition. I really think they're in transition, Julian. I think you've got a younger generation who is starting to work there. And I think they've also realized that, they couldn't continue doing it on the way. The other thing you got to remember is it's not just Airfix. It's Scaletrek, it's Hornby, and it's Humbrol. Yeah. I'd say I would more agree with you, let's say 5-6 years ago. I think they are trying, and we'll see what happens. Like, look at the people that bought the Hellcat. The 124th Hellcat is just, we have a guy here in our club, and he used to mock me for buying Airfix, and he has one now, and he says it's the best Hellcat in any scale They are now for everyone they produce. They're still producing some dogs, as Ian can attest to.
Yes,
with the quality control.
Mind you, I do have that Hellcat too, and that Hellcat is a lovely looking kit.
Yeah, exactly. So I think companies are trying to change. The smart ones are realizing what's happening in the space.
Yep.
And you cannot sit on your laurels anymore. In terms of national pride, I don't think that comes into the decision, Dave. I think it's, will this sell?
Yeah,
I think that's what it comes
dollars
down
is
to.
the dollars is
will
the
I
most
sell
important.
Will I sell more of a Vulcan versus more of an Arc Royal?
Yeah,
I know that Airfix made some efforts to build some kind of community outreach stuff. Like they brought back their Airfix club, I think, in the last 2 years, and the Airfix Kids Zone. So maybe those are things probably from a bygone era of the 80s, or maybe where they had those type of things to kind of engage the customers. But I'm sure they also have a pretty serious marketing department, right, that does all the research for what the kits are going to be.
This is what I always say when people say, why would they produce that? Because they thought they would make money.
Yep.
Some of the decisions, like all these battleship turrets that TACOM's made, you kind of go, well, why? But obviously, they're selling.
Yeah,
Somebody
but I get
cats,
that though.
yeah.
I do. I get them doing the turrets because they look cool.
I get that, and I completely agree, but I still don't think that Airfix do enough for community outreach and sort of fostering the sort of manufacturer customer relations that they probably should have.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what?
I agree.
And we're probably saying that, and we're coming at it from two directions. First of all, we're not in the UK, so we don't necessarily understand what the dynamic's like over there.
Well,
and we're also coming at it from a point of view as to what they used to be like and how they used to have that sort of community outreach and engagement with the community.
Well, I can tell you that the Games Workshop with the Warhammer franchise. I mean, they used to be very sort of secretive, and now they've sort of turned 180. They've got dedicated YouTube channels that put out daily videos on how to paint Space Marines and things like that. They're very in touch with their community now. They've got a roadmap for all the releases that they're sort of doing. I mean, that's how you need to be in this day and age.
I think in terms of Games Workshop, exactly. Games Workshop was always pretty good with the marketing. I remember even pre-social media, the companies got a little bit better, but they used to be well known for, the idea was, and I remember people talking about, the stores were basically set up so, the preteen boy going by with his mom and dad at the shopping plaza sees these, drags them in, get them to do it, and they're in it for 2 years, and then they're out again.
Yeah.
I think they've improved in that regard, and I agree. Airfix needs to, they are certainly getting out more and more. The thing you got to remember is marketing costs money.
Yeah.
We're also in a very unique environment because, again, we how many times have we heard, and I know Mike and Dave and the posse, we've talked about it too, where people always say, oh, we have to get kids into the hobby. And you hear the motor railway guys say that too.
Oh.
And is that necessarily the case anymore? The hobby now is evolved where people may still do a little bit. And you know what? Kudos to Airfix for the whole quick build thing.
Yeah.
They have stickers, snap, but really if you're putting your money in, you want to put it in on where most of the market's coming from. And most of the market are guys, like Julian's age and older, maybe, or like my age, they were in it for a while, they got out of it, but now the kids are older, they've got disposable income, they're looking for a hobby.
Yep.
And I think we can safely see that when you look at all the aftermarket stuff, can you imagine 30, 40 years ago, and I'll go back to Ian's aircraft carrier, he spends X amount on the aircraft carrier and 4 times as much on aftermarket.
Yeah.
Because it's there now. And it's just, because people know the manufacturers are seeing people have the income to do it. People will spend that sort of money.
Correct.
But they're also, you may still have the older guard. And this is what I call the old guard, not to insult anyone, but you still have people that they still think, the monograms of the world or whatever are the pinnacle of the hobby. And if you like to build that, great. But you also shouldn't be, putting down people that want to do something a little bit more. One of the biggest things, and I think I mentioned it I either mentioned it on our podcast, Anthony, last week, or with Jeff, but I basically mentioned the absolute worst thing you can do to a kid or a beginner getting in. If someone comes to you, a mate comes to you, says, I want to build a kit, don't give him a really old kit. No. Give him something that's a good build, like a Tamiya. Yeah, exactly. You've got to give them a good kit.
I totally agree, because for a new kid to get into it and then get handed something that's going to be an absolute dog's breakfast to build, it's going to put them off.
Yeah. What you were saying about the old guard, it kind of reminds me of that Carlin bit about how people who anyone who drives faster than you is a maniac, and anyone who drives slower than you is an idiot.
Yes,
that's a good point.
That's amazing, Julian.
It's like, if you're building things to a standard higher than me, then you're a tryhard.
Wow,
you're taking things too seriously. Yeah. And if you're not taking it as seriously as I am, then you're like some filthy casual.
Yeah. It's like people. I've had people refer to me as a rivet counter because I like to have my kits looking as realistic as possible. Well, that's just my personal choice. It doesn't mean I expect everyone else to do it. Sorry.
Don't we all want that, right?
Yeah, we want our stuff to
look best looking thing. In your mind, it looks amazing, right? No matter what you're building or who you are, you're like you think that the end thing is going to be this incredible. And that's what causes a lot of stress for people.
Yeah, so being a rivet counter, that's not being derogative. That's just the way I build.
Well, I think the definition of rivet counter is more about the guys who come and insult you bring your model to the club or the contest or where what have you, and they come and pick it all apart and disregard whatever work you put into it and disregard what stage you're at in your journey of acquiring skills and those guys are just assholes.
Correct.
This is why we talked. I remember you guys talked about that in a previous podcast. We came up with a new name for them, assholes.
Yeah.
And it's true. And I'll give you another example. The Musaru Cup we're working on. Julian and I are working on these, mediumly complex gyrocopters, and I don't normally build for a contest. But at the same time, I'm just going to do it to the best of my ability, and whoever wins it, great. But like I'm going to learn some new things and. And stuff like that. So
at least yours has a closed fuselage. Can I just say that?
I know. Well, you know what? I have to tell you again, Ian and they basically made those choices. I didn't get to choose which kit. So I'll just let you know that. But no, it's true. We're all different skill levels.
Yeah.
And what you were saying there, Ian, like, with both your aircraft carrier before and your Marauder you're building now, I know a few guys who are like that. They'll take an old kit and they'll buy a ton of stuff, but you know what? They enjoy doing it. You enjoyed working with the photo etch.
That's the reason I'm doing it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where with me,
I want that experience with the aftermarket, but I don't want to have to deal with the fixing the kit at the same time. That's
That's part of the journey.
But we each approach it. But we each approach it a different way. And this is where, for example, I enjoy the painting in that. Like before we went to air tonight, I was working on some of the tiny photo etch. But at the same time, I've certainly done a better job on it than I would have done a year ago. And I think it also depends sometimes our kits. Like I've gone through a very stressful year. So there's certain builds I've done, like my Skyhawk build, my What If build. Yeah, that's certainly nothing I'd enter into a contest, but it was an enjoyable build. It keeps you busy. In the end, you only build for yourself. If you choose to build for a contest, great. But in the end, it's got to be for yourself first.
And if you want to build a really good kit, build the new Tamiya Spitfire.
Seriously,
that is such a nice kit. I cannot. Look, buildability, I reckon it'd be probably 50% easier to build than the Edward kit. But it just falls. I have never in my entire life built a kit that went together so well and so easily and got built in 2.5 weeks.
Now, here's one that'll blow some people's minds. The Airfix, the brand new mold Hurricane they did. I built the Sea Hurricane variant, and I found that for me that fell together.
Yeah.
And again, similar things. So it just shows different things.
This is the 72nd scale one.
No, this is the 48th.
Oh, 48th. Okay.
Yeah, I had really good luck with it. I built the Sea Hurricane variant, and just for me, it went together beautifully. It was a fabulous kit. You ask other people,
isn't it like a lot? It seems to me like more people tend to build the Sea Hurricane over the regular Hurricane all the time.
Well, I think it's because it's possible, because in the Sea Hurricane kit, it actually had the parts for the tropical and the regular Hurricane.
So you can build all three variants.
So I got the boxing with the Sea Hurricane, so it came with a few extra little bits, and I just enjoyed the variant. It's like why Arma Hobbies are, because the Hurricane's popular too. Arma Hobbies have proven that, where all the variants they're building.
I'm glad Arma Hobbies doing as well as they are.
Yeah, they're a good
company. I was a bit sad. I was a bit sad they didn't start with a 48th Hurricane, but I can understand why they made the choice.
It just sounded from having that chat with them, the interview we did for SMP back in was that last fall? They
in the spring.
It's just such a job. It's such a chore, and there's so many moving parts to launching a company and making a plastic injection molded kit. So and then on top of that, they were really very much dedicated to that idea of like a good fit, that it has to fit, and then it has to look really closely to what it should look like. And that's no small feat for sure that they took on.
No.
And this is where one of the things I've always enjoyed. I've tried to keep it our niche with the manufacturing, and we've both seen that with the whole Wing That Wings thing. Where a lot of people didn't understand what happens behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was unfortunate, but it also kind of made people aware of, this is what's happening. And, if you dedicate yourself to building a couple of huge projects that are not going to sell as many units, you still have to pay the bills.
Correct.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Sorry, back to our earlier conversation about, we were kind of speculating about how things work. I think the model hobby, like the scale model hobby in particular, is a little bit, it's kind of niche by nature, right? Like,
yep.
do you guys ever you go online and you sort of have a bit of a whimsy, and you're like, well, okay, we're talking about Sea Hurricanes and now I want to build a tropical one. Do you guys ever have, you go and buy the kit? Do you ever have like kind of buyer's remorse or be like, I wish I didn't do that. I have enough.
No.
Any of you guys?
Only if I buy a kit and it doesn't live up to my expectation.
Oh yeah.
But now, if there's something that you were really into, and that's different for everybody, right? Like that thing that you loved since you were a kid. Where's the limit on the price if you knew it was a great kit and it was going to look really good and it was going to be a pleasure to build and all the reviews were good? Would you do anything to get it, right?
I have. For example,
yes,
the Aoshima 124 or 125th scale Mad Max Interceptor or Road Warrior Interceptor.
Yes,
that is no longer available. You can only buy it through eBay or online, and the starting price is $200 plus.
Oh, wow.
So you saved up, right?
I had enough cash for it, so yeah. I saw one there. I saw the cheapest one that was even the cheapest one was about $230, and I just thought, well, that's the cheapest by about $50. I'll buy it. Bang.
Mm-hmm. And I think it came out. It was about $80 when it was released, if I recall correctly, something around there. But sort of to my point was that when we're passionate about these subjects, right, like whatever that may be, so if it's something good, you'll save up or you'll spend the money. That's kind of, I think that's the kind of the marketplace we're in now, right? It's not, like I think people come and they try out, okay, I need something to do, and this is like a pastime or whatever, and I'll grab a car kit, a Ford Mustang or something, and I'll see how that goes. And I don't know if that's kind of, the market is not set up that way. We have all these like ultra specific niche things, and then all these further ultra specific niche things to make them even more, specific, right? And correct.
Well, and I think that's where the cottage industries, and I think
that's
where the cottage industries coming in, and that's where I've said the big companies like Airfix, Tamiya, Revell, they've got to really watch it, because they've got a much larger infrastructure. But they also know that they're likely to, at least right now, they're able to get their product out to more places. Okay, online brick and mortars. And
Anthony,
people know people. Go ahead.
Anthony. I think the other thing too, perhaps that you're missing there, is that the modelers of my age and Ian's age, we're at that point now where we've got the disposable income to pander to our whims that we have.
Yeah, so it's not really the kids who are kind of driving it; it's the people who can afford to buy what they want, right?
I think the kids are driving at the bottom end with your Games Workshop and your Warhammer stuff
and your Gundams.
They're driving it from that end,
sure.
And I think it's because of that we can enjoy the style of hobby we're having now, because that end is sort of helping to fluff up the sort of the minor side of it, which I mean
all the niche stuff.
Yeah, the niche stuff
can exist.
Yeah,
it can
exactly
exist, right? When there's a market.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think Bandai's got a really great strategy for getting in. I guess more a younger fan base, right? Because they have the TV shows which serve as the advertising, especially for Gunpla kits, where they're watching the shows or playing the video games, and then it'd be so much cooler to have that in real, in 3D or in tactile. I can build up and display on my desk or whatever.
Yeah, it's like is Larry that do the World of Tanks kits.
Exactly.
Yes, it's the same idea, right?
That must be so lucrative for them, because it enables them to sell all their old crappy armor kits to a whole generation
with a decal,
of people who don't know any better.
Yeah, you get a decal option. You get a little card, like a trading card. I think you get.
Right.
Yeah, and it
a
also
collectible
gives
of
you
some sort.
and it also gives you the exclusive right to use a certain upgraded tank for like a week.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. To what Julian's saying. To what Julian's saying in terms of it gives them the ability to sell their old crappy kits. I'm maybe not perfectly happy about that, but at the same time, it does get people thinking about it and interested. So I think it's a win-win for both sides. And just further to what Anthony was saying with Bandai and that, people constantly forget how huge the market is over there. Bandai can create 100,000 units of something hot, and Tamiya considers 50,000 a good thing, or more. And
the scale is quite different.
And what is it, Anthony? Gundam's 40 years old this year.
The 40th anniversary is this year.
And again, they've got so many different special editions, and they're selling it. And here's the good thing I always like to say, we're in let's say 30 years, in terms of our hobby, I think you're going to see the ratio of sci-fi and stuff like that to be a lot larger than the traditional armor stuff. You're certainly going to have a reduction in World War II modeling and stuff like that. I've heard and seen similar facts in the model railway space. In the model railway space, and Anthony's dad's a model railroader, 30, 40 years ago, everyone was modeling steam engines, because that's what, when they were a kid, they remember doing that. The adults now, they want the more modern stuff. So you're seeing a lot more of, particularly in the States and that, of diesels being produced, modern day Union Pacific GM diesels and that. And
complete with the burn marks down the side.
Complete with the burn marks because they're on fire. Yes, exactly.
I heard they like catching fire, those things.
But I think what you're going to see is, in terms of in future, yes, people growing up now, they're seeing, like for airplanes, the F-22, the F-35. You will still have those people that like building the old warbirds and that.
The old-timey airplanes.
Is old-timey airplanes. But the percentage is going to be different. The only exception I found is Wingnut really brought in to the mainstream, or at least to a lot of people, the World War I. But there's still some very good manufacturers of World War I.
Well,
I think
Rodin,
the ratio.
Yeah, Rodin's still.
Yeah. Can I just say that I think there's also one other factor, though. There's a restriction on the more sci-fi subjects. Because like World War I, World War II, all of those sort of things, apart from all the stuff that's owned by Boeing, right?
Yes.
You need to get their permission to slap their little reflective sticker on your box. Generally speaking, you can do any of those subjects and no one's going to lawyer up on you.
Yeah, the license
it's IP versus
with Bandai,
historical.
For those who don't know, with Bandai, because they sell the Gundam type stuff, it's not like they cover every single subject. If you think of the entirety of World War II. If that was a work of fiction, and then you had Airfix who owned it, they only produce all the Spitfires.
Yep.
No, and you didn't get any Messerschmitts or Focke-Wulfs or Zeros or anything like that. That's kind of what Bandai's like. They own everything, and if anyone touches any of their work, they'll sue them. But they don't do many of the bad guy kits. It's mostly just the good guy, the main.
Really?
No, they put out everything, and they're actually cranking. I cannot believe how many releases are coming out.
But there's lots of stuff, but they do neglect the antagonists.
So? I don't know. Well, I think there's been a lot of coverage on. We've got some great kits. I mean, for a long time there was a real lack of just certain designs from series that you think, well, that's amazing. I'd love a kit of that, and there was just nothing. But you could get aftermarket resin, kind of third party stuff or bootleg kind of or like that kind of idea. But now I think they're really catching up. They've gone crazy with their releases.
The market
it's like staggering.
The market is so big for that if they're not careful, they'll end up with China making all the other subjects that they're not willing to do.
Yep.
And then
that's happened.
Yeah.
That's
when you're
that's
dealing with
happened.
China, then you got no recourse. You're suing when you're dealing with China.
No,
there's been a number of interesting cases. There's been a number of interesting cases of like Chinese companies producing knockoff kits or like. See, it's weird that they're knockoffs. They're like styrene, like they're fully injection kits. They're really well built, but they're completely like stolen IP, right?
Yeah,
they're catching up.
Yeah, what their current generation of fighter aircraft. Stolen technology from Russia.
Yeah.
And the Russians aren't happy about it either.
No, but here's a great example. Again, we got a couple of guys in the club building cars. You can get one. I think it's Trumpeter, American sports car.
Yeah, which is a GT40.
Yeah, minus the Ford logo.
That's the same idea of licensing and its IP of the particular companies that make it, right? So it's expensive proposition.
I see what you're saying, Julian, but I also think in terms of companies are going to realize it's out there. Look how many, and Anthony, we can speak to this too, is at least in Canada, we're seeing a lot of, and in the US, a lot of classic Japanese anime series. They're reissuing it. They're coming back. They're realizing there's money to be made. And I think we'll probably see more. The smart companies are going to realize there's a market there.
Yep.
George Lucas proved it.
But like I'm not sure if I can't. I'm a bit hazy on the details. But didn't the recent like in the last like 5 years, the Star Wars IP got given to Revell, or was it
Revell
Zvezda?
had it for a while. Revell had it
because
for a while,
that,
yes.
All the older Bandai kits couldn't be sold in certain countries.
It's licensed by region. That's why.
So that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't go to a Japanese retailer and buy any Bandai Star Wars kits now. You have to get it through the proper channel, so it goes to a distributor and then to retail market.
Yeah. What happened was a couple of years ago. Yeah, in North America and Revell had the Star Wars license when the last 3 movies came out, and they were more catering to the kid market, like snap-tight kits and that. Bandai basically, I believe they had the rest of the world. I'm not sure about Europe, but they definitely had outside of North America, and that's when you had a lot of modelers. Yeah, they wanted the Bandai ones because they knew the fit was great and all that.
And the fine molds had it, right?
Well,
those are the coveted ones that they weren't being sold.
Yeah. But I guess what happened was, finally, the powers that be realized that they're losing out on a lot of money because people were buying them anyway. That's when they opened it up. I don't think Revell is the license anymore. Well, Revell in the U.S. obviously does.
I think it really is by region, right? Because think of how many companies have had a crack at producing. It started out with Ertl or was it AMT Ertl in like kind of early
AMT
80s,
had the
right?
license. Well, they negotiated, right? It used to be by region, but I think now the smart companies are realizing you can't do it by region anymore. It's like having, you remember in the old days you had different regions for your DVD. Has to be global. Because you know what? I can right now go to B&A in Australia and order it, and they'll ship it to me.
Correct.
You know, and
crazy?
just like you guys can order from Wheels and Wings in Toronto.
Yep.
Yeah,
you know, it's exactly the same
or
thing.
as I do from Ultracast.
Or from Ultracast.
Yeah,
exactly.
Ultracast is just around the corner from us. They're not
there
far
you
away.
go.
Yeah, they're not that far away. Yeah, just as dangerous between them and Flexifile and all that.
Oh man,
Yes,
I love Ultracast resin seats with the molded on seat belts.
Yep.
That
Best
stuff
thing
is
ever.
Yeah.
Best thing ever.
Have you had that guy on?
Wow.
Have you had those guys on your show yet?
We're working on it.
Ultracast?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on it.
I did put the invitation out there.
Yeah.
Maybe something in the future for sure.
See,
Well,
what we want to
since
do is
they're
we're
around the
hoping.
corner, just pitch a 10 out the front. And eventually they'll come to the
Well,
party.
no, we usually harass them at the shows, right? But you know, we didn't have the shows.
Guys, I can only chase so much prey at one time. That's what it comes down to.
The hunter that hunts 2 rabbits catches none, or
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's
basically.
exactly right, Julian. That's exactly right. So I usually have the ideas are plentiful. It's the time to execute,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
And then try and make something that's going to be valuable or enjoyable for a listening audience.
Just set a trap for him. Go buy some of those Tim Horton donuts and just sort of pop them on the front door, man. And when you see the door open, you jump and pounce on them.
You jump them in. See what happens when you come over here? We immediately make you an honorary Canadian.
That's it.
You've got half of our old Air Force, so you know what?
Well, exactly. I know we're still converting them. I know. I heard something's going to take them a few years to swap out the radar or something. I don't know. I don't know. I think you guys sold us a few lemons.
No,
No, we wouldn't do that.
No, we wouldn't do that.
And you know those smaller companies, and Stuart's pointed this out in the past. They're the ones that I find are more receptive. They're like, hey, this is free promotion. It gets us out there to our target people. They've been really great for the most part. And like I was saying earlier, I think everyone's so busy that you approach them and they're like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. That's awesome. But then it's okay. We got to get together and you got to spend a couple hours or whatever. That's always harder, right?
Life
Like
gets
you
in
have
the
things
way.
pulling at you. Have things that need to be done and are pulling at you, and we all experience that.
The thing that you guys have the advantage over us, though, is the time zone issue, because we're at the top of the world, and you guys are all down the bottom of the world. And
I think it's because we speak English too.
yeah.
There's no foreign language in the way.
Yeah, but it's the time zones that kill us. I mean, here we are Saturday afternoon now, recording this while you guys are coming into your bedtime, are you not?
Yeah.
Just coming up. Yeah, it's about 10 to 9.
You know what's crazy though? I don't know what it is about Australia, but you guys are just killing it with models. Like I'm just thinking now, I've had at least four or five interview guests from Australia and New Zealand. I'm just going to combine them just geographically. And so
Yeah,
New
don't
Zealanders won't like
just
that.
don't say that out loud.
because
Don't
I've
say
had
that
to
out loud.
well, just in terms of having to, you were mentioning about the time zones. I've like really goofed up a lot of time zone scheduling, just trying to get people sort of queued up for the interviews. There's obviously a lot of like excitement and stuff going on in the Australian model community for sure.
Well, I look at how many stores you say are within an hour's drive. from where you are?
14 stores,
14.
15
Yeah,
stores.
That's amazing.
That's crazy.
That's amazing.
And that's not
That's
counting
crazy.
the Warhammer stuff and the specialist sci-fi joints.
Yeah. And I think that's just amazing. And as Anthony
is
says, like
remarkable.
we've met some wonderful new friends, like the guys at the gang at Return to Kit Forum, and and stuff like that. It's just great people everywhere, and people are open. And one of my goals has always been, when I started this, is we want to support the little guys too. So we quite happily promote them when we can, and because there is, I think, and as Anthony says, in a lot of ways, that's the bulk of the hobby these days. You're going to be having these smaller manufacturers, and
there's always an interesting
great now.
story with when people are going out and making something. There's always an interesting story. Sometimes you just have to kind of parse through it a little bit to see what's happening, but it's incredible actually. I think I've had more Australian gas than Canadian gas. So I don't know if that
we do get around.
You do get around. Yes, indeed. But I think it's important to note though that and you talk to these people. These people generally, sure, money plays a part. You want to make a little bit of money, but they're doing it for the love.
Yeah.
And like if we talk to that, annoying guy at who makes those sanding blocks, right? He did it to solve a problem, right?
Yeah.
You haven't exactly quit your day job, have you, Anthony?
Nope.
Well, it's similar to like making a podcast. Like, there's nothing around. I'm gonna do it myself.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sure it's the same thing for model kits. Like, I want a 48 scale or 72nd scale, such and such. So since there isn't one, I'll make one.
Yes.
Well, that's the other thing I wanted to point out this year. Have you noticed this year in particular? And I know we've all mentioned it a couple of times, depending on the subject, where there's been stuff that before you could only get in resin or vacuum form, and now people are coming out with injected molded.
Yeah.
Sometimes multiple manufacturers. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
I think, Julian, you brought that point up. Yeah, it is good. I think, Julian, you were talking about that one of your earlier on the bench episodes, talking about how they have to, as a producer of model kit subjects, there's this like standard library to pick from, right? Like Panzer 1, Panzer 2. But then I think you guys were talking about tanks, right? And then now people can afford to, producers can afford to take on these other, more obscure or less known subjects and give them proper, injection molded kit releases.
Well, if we tie that back into the talk about niches, right? Like new sort of startup companies should always target a small niche, and then as they grow bigger, they target more mainstream subjects. That's generally how it works, because you need to sort of differentiate yourself from
the mainstream
manufacturers. Otherwise, there's no reason for, like, if someone else comes out with a
P51
like a P38, like to me it's like in 48 scale. What's for the average consumer? What's the reason for me to pick your one over theirs?
Yeah.
When Tamiya's already got that reputation,
and it's a well-established kit.
Yeah, it's much better for you to go for something more obscure to distance yourself from them and provide something.
Thus, you have companies like Dora Wings.
Yeah, Dora Wings is a fantastic example.
Like their new Volti Vengeance looks like it's going to be potentially a marvelous looking kit.
And those companies seem to be kind of looking to fill a very specific need, right? Like there's a problem that needs to be solved, and we're going to step in and do it. But the big guys. Did you guys? I was reading a book recently about the history of Revell. And back to Revell, Germany, and like it's such a different. There was a different way that companies are coming out now. Like for example, that model you just mentioned, where you're like, we're gonna make this incredible thing. People are gonna love it who love this subject. But those companies before were just looking for, they needed to sell something. They needed to streamline the manufacturing process. It almost like the end widget didn't matter too much. Like there's obviously, I think they were a toy store.
I think
Revell had some roots, and model kits were kind of covered under toys, right? Kind of aimed at children. It was like a pastime type of idea, and they were just it was the thing that sold, got more attention or more shop space in the manufacturing floor and that kind of thing, and that's where those big older, more established companies come from. But I think Tamiya was a toy store as well in the 60s, or like a model shop.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Well, that's often how a lot of things came about in eras gone by.
Yeah.
Like for example, this particular firearms manufacturer, they started off with an idea, but they got it manufactured by this particular machining firm, and then eventually grew big enough to become a separate thing, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of it was sort of offshoots of, like, offshoot products from the same industry.
Very true. Airfix was similar. They had this. They had an order come in. They were doing pre-made, and then they had an order came in because they wanted to do a demo. A tractor manufacturer wanted to do a tractor, and so they did them as like sales models. But then they realized they could sell them as disassembled as a quick and easy kit for kids.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
You know,
interesting.
so I think a good question, because you're going to get some of the other podcasts on. You know, I was just mentioning about the 3D vinyl decals. That's the thing that's really made me go wow this year. I think, you know, I'm curious what the rest of you, what have you found? You know, the thing you're finding, whether it's a kit or a technique or whatever, what thing have you found this year or even in the last year and a half that have made you go wow?
Well, for me, what I mentioned before was the new Tomato Spitfire. That is just a wow factor by 1,000. That just I cannot rave enough about that kit. It's just I just anyone who builds 148 scale aircraft, buy one. You won't regret it.
Yeah, it's on my to get list already.
It is such a good kit to build. Yeah.
You even got me interested a little bit.
It falls together. It literally falls together.
Yeah. I think I'm starting to get to midlife, and now that idea of like doing anything to get that subject is becoming less appealing to what's a project that will look good in a smaller amount of time.
Yeah.
That thinking is starting to creep into my decision making process a little bit.
Well, I think this is good. You got me into Gundams, so I get you into you know, we get you into World War II aircraft.
Yeah. Fair trade.
I think it's good. I think it's a fair trade.
I
think for me the three wow factors over the last, and I guess I'm going to sort of push it back to the last 24 months. First of all is the move to acrylic lacquer paints has been huge for me. It's really stepped up my modelling. I do a lot more modelling now. I can do it faster because the paints dry so quickly and so hard. The AK weathering pencils sort of blew my mind as to how fantastic they actually are. And as a model manufacturer, it's a local boy. Well, apart from SMS Paints being a local manufacturer as well, which I need to mention, but also Horizon models as well. Their rockets, I'm just absolutely blown away by how much fun that was to put together.
That's great.
Yep. Tony
awesome.
Does some great stuff, and you did a great, and you set that up nicely with the display case and the V2 and everything. And it's really been fun following that journey.
Yeah. What about you, Julian?
So there's three things that sort of stand out in my mind. I had to think about it for a bit, so it's good that you guys went first. The first would be buying my most recent airbrush, which is the PS 770 or 270 or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's a good airbrush.
The Mr. Procon.
Yeah.
The Guns brand airbrush.
Yep.
That thing, having a high-end airbrush that can spray really small, which enables me to freehand my camouflage, soft edge. Oh, that is such a... it's so good to use. Like, I don't need to... It's sort of... it's good enough that it informs you. Like, if you're not thinning your paint enough, it just doesn't work. So you know where the right path is, right?
That's interesting.
The chrome pen, the Molotov chrome pens.
Oh, yeah, good one. Yeah.
That was a game changer. And
really?
Yeah.
And
awesome.
the good thing is you can also apply that stuff by brush.
Right.
I've heard that.
And I've heard of people
done that a few
spraying,
times,
airbrushing it.
Yep. Yeah, because you just buy the refill, and the refill you just basically just pour into your airbrush and spray away.
That's awesome. Are you thinning it when you airbrush it?
No, just straight out of the bottle.
Yeah. I have to get one of those Procon boys. You guys, I remember you talking about it, and I was already frustrated with mine. A 0.3 tip, trying to do some finer work, which I could get it to go, but man, it was a little more struggle, and I was using a lot of the retarder additive and that kind of thing to kind of get
drawing out on you.
Yeah, and still not like having consistent results, so that kind of frustrated me. And when you guys were talking about that, I looked it up, and as the price took my breath away a little bit, but it made me, now you say it might be something I have to save up for and get.
Well worth it.
The third one was the recent purchase of that Orange Hobby Pegasus class hydrofoil, which is basically like it's a case where aftermarket manufacturer has made a kit of their own. And so it's like full encompassing. You don't need to buy anything extra. The thing was dirt cheap. Like $50. You can't buy aftermarket for $50.
No.
You know? So the fact that they were able to get
cool.
an entire resin kit plus like essentially the aftermarket, like all encompassing, that's just amazing to me. Like it's the level of detail that you want right out of the box.
Yeah, I can say.
Is that fair? Is it fairly small in 350?
Yeah. It's not even as long as your phone. It's
okay.
It's a pretty small kit, but it's detailed. It's all in one box. You don't need to look anywhere else. You just buy it work on it.
Yeah, I can say the same with the Verifier.
Oh, yeah.
Their battleships. My guy bought the not the Arrow. What one did I buy? The Missouri. And that is amazing. Yep. You don't need to buy anything else. Everything is in the box.
Smart way of doing it.
And the quality of their casting or their plastic injection molding is just amazing. It's just so fine.
So are the days of go ahead, Julian.
No, sorry, I was about to move on to the fourth thing because I thought of a fourth thing.
I was just going to ask you guys, are the days of kind of like trying to assemble all these pieces to make your kit, your dream of what your build's going to be, are those days over now? We can get a full box that has all the stuff that you need to do a good build with? Is that how things are going to go?
I hope so.
Yeah, I did.
That'd be a bonus if you could buy one box with everything in it. It would be great.
Unless everyone adopts the Eduard sort of model where you've got like the weekender kit for people who want a simpler attempt, and the Profi Pack kit for people who want a more elaborate, more intense sort of thing experience. I don't think you'll see it widespread.
No.
But see, nowadays you got 3D printing at the point now where you can buy pom-poms for anti-aircraft pom-poms that the Royal Navy used in World War II, and you don't have to.
And they're beautiful.
And you don't have to spend a whole day just assembling in photo etch one pom-pom. It's already 3D printed and bang, there it is. All you got to worry about is maybe a little bit of cleanup and just painting it and bang, you're done. And that
will get me building a 1/350th battleship.
Yeah.
For that reason, I was going to say that would be my number 2 and my number 3 were the weathering pencils. But I think you're talking about with the hydrofoil and that. There's an example of a company they're passionate about the subject by just the sheer quality of what they're coming out with. So
So in the fourth thing, and I really should have thought of this, but this isn't a recent revelation though. Mr. Leveling Thinner.
Oh, yeah. Unicorn tears.
Yes.
Unicorn tears.
Our local store just got a shipment in, and all the vultures were there the first morning.
Better be one left for me.
Did you get the big 600 ml bottle?
I think that's the big one. Yeah.
The big ones.
Man, that stuff is magic.
Drink the big ones, boys.
You can use that for just about anything. You can use it for leveling, thinning. It's just
everything.
I don't know what it is.
And the rule of thumb with it is that if the paint doesn't work with it, it's probably crap paint.
No kidding, eh?
Well, we're really pleased because we're finally getting the Mr. Hobbies finally re-released the Aqueous. And we're finally seeing that here last year. So we got a shipment. So very happy about that. I stocked up on the old RAF interior green like 20 years ago, and I'm down to my last jar.
Oh, good timing there.
So Anthony, I was going to ask, what are do you have a couple that makes you think?
The most. Geez, I was having a hard time. I'm glad I'm last. I'm trying to think if it would just be this year. It
doesn't matter. It can be 2 years. It can be 2 years, maybe.
Well, Anthony, I would have thought you would have said the Goodman sanding blocks sort of rocked your world.
Well, yeah, that's true. Good
so
point.
they're in their 5th year now. No, they're. You know what? Those I use them all the time. I keep a set in my little travel toolbox and a set on my bench, and I even some weird ones that I made up custom. But a couple things that really jumped out at me, and maybe this is 2019, but I got it's by the company's called Mr. Joe Fix. It's Japanese, and it was a grass mat that had sort of multiple colors.
I know the brand. Yeah. We can get JFix here in through B&A.
Yeah, exactly. And that I used that on my Aliens, the APC build, and I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and you sort of pull it apart. And I know I've now recently seen other versions, like by Walthers has them down at our local hobby shop, like meant for like obviously railway scenery, but it's the same idea.
Yep.
And there's a couple other companies. I'm trying a different one that looked appealing, like, and you usually buy them by season, and it's like a mat where you get 8 by 10 inches or something of that nature, and you rip it apart, and or you can use it the way it is. And I really that's and it kind of blows me away how they make it, and like how they woven the fibers together. It's that was something that really blew me away. And I guess because I've been using Mr. Leveling Thinner for a long time, and the pencils, I have some of the pencils, but I haven't really got fully into them. I expect that they're going to be a great tool or a great finishing product, but I haven't used it enough to kind of see all the. Hopefully, I will have more opportunities.
Well, actually, if you look in that box behind you, you'll see the result of using weathering pencils.
Yes, you used for all the chips and stuff. Yeah, and it looked great. I'm gonna have to get a stand for that and put it on my shelf after I do a remodel, so can motivate me through shame.
Well, guys, looking, the clock's ticking here. I've got electronic devices that are starting to run out of power. I've got to feed 2 boys here because they've had their breakfast. It's coming up for lunchtime now. Look, thanks very much for coming on and helping us celebrate our 100th episode with this special episode. I'm going to call it OTB versus SMP. So that'll be the title.
Well, congratulations.
Cheers,
guys.
Congratulations. Yeah, it's been absolutely fabulous. It's been absolutely fabulous following the journey and being part of the journey with you. So, and here's to the next 100, and when we can all get together at some point physically. And like I said, it would be great one day if we can do that.
Well, I'm planning to get back over to Canada. Michelle's really keen to go back and visit. Again, it'll be another winter trip for us because I reckon Canada in winter is the best time to go.
You love it. Yeah, I know.
Love the snow. You guys probably think I'm crazy.
No, but you know what? If you do that, maybe we can convince our other 2 East Coast, the Posse and Dave and Mike at Plastic Model Mojo, to make a trip up. It's only a couple of hours, if the border's open. That would be pretty awesome. Down at the museum, you get all four together.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to figure out a way of once we finish this Mooseroos Cup, we're going to have to look away at expanding it and do a 4 or even 5-way split. Yeah.
Definitely. I think that'd be pretty cool. So we can look at that. I might have a couple of irons in the fire on that too.
Beautiful.
Fantastic.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, guys. Thanks very much.
Wonderful.
All right.
No worries. See you later.
Cheers. See you guys.
Take care, guys.